How do you get your money as a freelancer? Coming up. Hello and welcome back to the Freelanceverse. This is episode 2 of the little series on the channel about money. If you haven't seen last week's video, it was all about setting your rate. So a very important topic, of course, for many of us. You can click here if you're interested. I'm sorry about the audio, something went wrong. It should be back to crisp audio quality today. I hope so at least. So today is actually about physically getting paid. How do you get paid as a freelancer? How do you get that money? Regular money coming in as a freelancer is super important because it guarantees our active cash flow, right? You need something regularly coming in so you can pay your bills, you can pay your employees if you have, or your contractors, you can pay yourself a salary out. So it's really important to keep a regularity in your payment process. That is why I invoice every time the first working day of the month. I invoice for the previous month. Actually, is it next week? Yeah, it's going to be next week. It's the end of August now. So on the 1st of September, I will invoice for August. And if you do that regularly and you don't forget, or at least not more than 1-2 days, then after a while you will get a regular practice, because usually you have the similar payment terms for your clients, right? Once you have your clientele established. So almost always at the same time you will get paid, and it's almost like having a few salaries throughout the month. You know, you get paid on different occasions depending on the client. Because payment terms is another thing I have written down here. Ideal would be, of course, if you could define all your payment terms by yourself, but it is common practice, especially when working with agencies, that they have their payment workflow set up and they just pay on their own terms. Like every time on my invoice I write that they have to pay within 15 days, but I have a few clients that I trust, that I know they will pay. One of them has 30 days, one of them has 45 days. Usually I think that's way too long, but I know that they pay regularly. So as long as I invoice them regularly every month, after 45 days, then it will also become regular in terms of payments. I will still be paid every month, if you know what I mean. But sometimes it can be a bit frustrating, especially when you have a slower month. Then the consequences of the slower month you only notice basically in like 2 months, when you get paid the invoice of the slower month, right? So just make sure to keep a regularity in that. In terms of how to accept international payments, it really depends where you are located. So all my clients except for one is in the European Union or in Switzerland, and basically like it's not technically in the European Union, but there are a lot of bilateral laws. So in terms of banking system, it works the same, right? I can receive international payments without any fees. So I prefer very, very much wire transfers for my payments. But I know that in the US, for example, this is not common practice. There people work much more with tools like PayPal, like what else is there? Cash App is there, I think. There are a bunch of these services. I don't know all of them because I don't use them. The only one I use is PayPal for one of my clients who is in Australia, and for one that I work irregularly with. So I have maybe one payment every 2-3 months. I use PayPal as well. He's from the US, right? So I have 2 non-European clients regularly, and for them I set up a PayPal account. PayPal is super easy. You just give them your email address and they can send you money. One thing about PayPal that is really cool is that it goes into escrow if you generate a project in there, right? So you have basically the money locked, so they can't just run away after you have done the translation. They can't just run away with the text and not pay you. So you have this type of security in there. There are a bunch of fees connected to PayPal, especially because I receive these payments in Australian dollars and in US dollars, and I have to convert them to euro when I want to pay myself out this on the account. I usually keep it in PayPal and I just pay services through PayPal, so I can actually use the money that these 2 clients paid me in there, so I don't actually pay it out to my account. Only if it's really a lot and I don't want to keep it in my PayPal account, then I transfer it to my bank account, but then you have a fee. Just need to keep that in mind. Honestly, I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, Africa, Asia. I hope you find it out by connecting to other peers, or if you are from these continents, please write it down in the comments how you receive your payments, especially in continents where most of your clients would be maybe American or European, how you deal with these international fees. if you are in the EU, just use wire transfers. It's the easiest, the quickest, and most commonly used. So you write an invoice. I made a whole dedicated video about invoicing. It's up here if you want to see it after that. At the bottom of this invoice, you just indicate your preferred payment method to the client. So for me, there is my business bank account with my IBAN number, with my name, with the name of my bank. And then there's also the email from my PayPal. So the clients can choose where they want to pay you. But of course, with your recurring clients, this is actually kind of irrelevant because they have a system and your bank account needs to go in there once and then the payment just runs automatically, right? Now, when you're working with a first-time client, so if you've never worked with them before, I strongly recommend you to ask them to do a prepayment, right? At least 50%, if not 100%. It's common practice, you don't need to feel bad. I recently just hired someone to work for me and they didn't even announce it. They just, I negotiated with them and then they said, okay, we are ready, please pay. And once we receive the payment, we will start the translation. And it was fine for me because I've never worked with them before. It was the first time that they just immediately brought this up without warning, and I was first a bit perplexed, but then I thought, yeah, actually it's fair, you know, why not? At that point I could still say, oh, I didn't know I have to prepay, I don't want to do it. You can evade a lot of scammers like this because there are a lot of people out there who are it never happened to me, but I hear it happening to people that they would just start negotiating, be very happy to find a job and then work like 5 days on a translation, send it over, send the invoice and never hear back, right? And that's something that sucks. You really need to pay attention to that because your hard work should not be scammed and should not go unvalued or undervalued. So whenever you are working for the first time with a client, just tell them, hey, for my first time client, it's common practice for me that I have 50% prepayment and the rest after delivery. Please send the money, the 50% of the amount to this account. And once I receive it, I will start translation. Of course, it is not done by simply sending out an invoice and waiting, right? You have to check. You are in charge of your accountancy, so you have to have at least some kind of Excel sheet or some kind of order management with all the invoices that you sent out. And then after a while, after a month, after 2 months, you have to check if the payment on your balance, on your bank account balance, corresponds with the invoice that you have in your system. And if this money came in, you can check it, right? And if you do that regularly, then you will always see if a payment is still open, if an invoice is not paid. And that leads me to late payers. Late payers are another harmful practice to the industry that I'm trying to warn people about and give them a few tips on how to approach them. So the first thing you have to do is spot them, right? Because many scammers will try to not pay you. Maybe it goes unnoticed because a lot of people don't track their order management to their balance, right? So they just don't have to pay and they never hear back from them, and that's fine. It's definitely not fine, so make sure you know which invoices are paid and which aren't. And if you see that someone is late, then just take it easy first because it can happen to anyone. I'm sure you have missed a payment. I'm missing payments way too often, unfortunately, and then I get reminders because my inbox is flooded, my post box is flooded sometimes, and I'm traveling a lot, so it can easily happen that you miss a payment. So the first approach to a late payer should just be very friendly. Tell them, hey, I know it can happen that you miss a payment. Just know that this invoice is not paid yet. It was due on that day. I attach it again to this email. Please pay it as soon as possible within 15 days. Usually the payment then gets done. They apologize. They say we missed it, unless they are really scammers, and then it gets interesting, right? Because they will still not pay after 15 days. That is just so unbelievably scammy and rude, and I will never understand people that do this, but unfortunately it happens. And I have to say there's not much we can do, honestly. It happened to me in the beginning. I took on some crazy hours. It was all weekend work and I was just desperate for work and money. So I took them on and I was working like 3-4 weekends in a row, ridiculous hours. And I was owed almost, I think around 2,000 euros or dollars back then. I don't want to name the client, don't want to name the agency, but it's not going well for them. I can tell you that. And yeah, I didn't know what to do. I did this work in like September, and in the next year I was still not paid, and I wrote them weekly. I wrote them. I made up new stories. I wrote them that because while not paying, they still sent me requests for new jobs. That's crazy, and I always declined them. And then I made up this story that I stopped freelancing and I really need to close my accounts here, and I was in the Netherlands then, and I made up this whole situation. I told them I need this money now, otherwise I can't close my account. Please pay immediately. Nothing happened until I threatened them with legal action. I will not say that I would have ever followed up on legal actions because it's incredibly expensive and you will probably never do that, but it still worked with just by threatening them. So, take that as you will. I don't recommend threatening with legal actions, but if that's the only last chance, might as well try it. I threatened them with legal actions. They paid within 2 days. Yeah, it shouldn't be like this, but at least I got paid. And then of course I reviewed them in all the platforms I've mentioned them many times on the channel. The blue board from Probst, there you can go see if a company is reliable, how many stars it has, and of course I gave them 1 star there, and I've seen that many other people did as well. And there is a blacklist for translation agencies Facebook group. They were also many times mentioned in there, so I was not the only one. I just had to experience this to learn from this mistake, I guess. And the last thing I want to really hammer into your brains, it's so important. Once you get paid, of course, if you get your first payments, enjoy it, celebrate, spend money, that's fine. But I want to make sure that you understand that, especially if you live in an EU country where you have, what's that in English? Like, I don't know, the tax system where as an employed person, you get the net salary paid out, so you don't have to worry about taxes. But as freelancers, we get the gross salary paid out, right? The revenue. So not all that you get is for you. You have to put money away for taxes, social security, other investments, etc. So I have a special account within my bank account where I immediately take, let's say, half of the money that comes in immediately goes to this account, and it stays there, right? I don't take money from there. So whenever I have to do my quarterly tax prepayments, I can take from there. My VAT taxes, I pay from there. So just keep that in mind. Not that at the end of the year you spend all your money and you think you didn't lose anything, because you think, okay, it worked out, I'm on zero, and then suddenly a huge tax bill comes in and you can't pay it, right? So anything that comes in, it depends where you live, of course, but as a rule of thumb, just put half of it away and enjoy the other half of it. There you go. This was part 2 of the money series on the Freelanceverse channel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. This is an emotional topic, but very important. That's why I wanted to make this a 2-parter. Let me know in the comments how the whole money thing is going for you, because I know it's causing a lot of anxiety for people, and I'm in talk with many people about exactly these issues, like worries about taxes, worries about how it works if you're getting paid from clients abroad. It's not that difficult. You just have to once figure out how the whole workflow goes. And if you still have more questions, please get in touch with me and I can help you on an individual basis, of course. Make sure to scroll down, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps out so much, and I see you next week with, I think, the next Specialized episode. I'm not sure, but I see you there for sure. Bye bye.